Welcome everyone to our Photoshop Masterclass tutorial. A lot of discussion in the intervening week, a lot of feedback on recent tutorials, a lot of questions. But what I realized a day or so ago was that underlying all of the bits and pieces that have been coming to us during the week, there really is a communality, a common association, primarily to do with one's intent, one's sense of purpose, rather than tool sets and applications. And I preface our questions today, which I think are really just one question about intent and purpose, from different points of the compass. And I'll go through some of these different points of departure to try and flesh out a coherent response that hopefully will be of some help. So let's jump to those questions and the introductory thought. More to do with intent and purpose than tool sets and applications. This idea of this communality. Let's look at how it's been variously expressed in emails and conversations about such things. Beginning with a friend saying, I understand the difference between a literal transcription and a poetic description. So it's how do we do this in Photoshop? Now, they have referred to some of the workshop's case studies, which tackle specific conceptual frameworks, anthropomorphism, morphology, the spectacular spectacle, presence, and so on. But they can't find a specific case study about poetic revelations or poetic editing. Then another friend, and this is one of those reoccurring thoughts, I want my images to engage with others as powerfully as they engage me. This happens sometimes, even unexpectedly, but more often than not, something feels not quite right. Something seems to be missing or being overlooked. When the literal, the referent, what's in front of the lens doesn't carry the weight of one's concerns to others, then it's what else we offer, what else will you attribute to, encrust the literal with. Again, the same idea of intent and purpose, but now not so much questioning actual tool sets and applications, but begging for something more, though it's those tool sets and applications that we have to work with in order to achieve those outcomes. Then another associate currently studying with us Photoshop Masterclass said, I feel the way I lay out Photoshop very different to what I see in your recorded workshop sessions as to how you have Photoshop organized, the workspaces and so on. They're worried that something about the tools and the applications, the way they organize them, or by default, the way Photoshop presents itself to us, is getting in the way, or can this be improved? It's still talking about purpose. It's still talking about intent, but now worried that not the nomenclature, but the structural elements, the apparatus itself is perhaps a problem. And how do I refine that? And then being quoted back to myself, goodness knows where I said this, in reality, photography is closer to painting than most photographers would understand. Now, obviously, that's not a throwaway comment. I'm not being frivolous, but it's out of context. And this friend, who is also enrolled in the Photoshop Masterclass, referred to our recent landscape tutorial, where we're discussing this concept of potentiality, having the potential rather than being prevented or not able to access or execute or what have you. And far from frivolous distinction between photographing as tourists versus explorers. Again, this is our duality theory of photography, and wanting us to flesh out those ideas and extend them a little. Now, of course, once again, this is about one's intent and one's sense of purpose and the outcomes that you are trying to accrue and attribute to such concerns. Questions coming from different directions, but underlying them all is this common association. And as a precursor to what I've prepared, if you've spent years building Photoshop fluency, but 0 years building pictorial judgment, I think you're in trouble. Tools are not the end game here. They're simply a means of getting where you need to be. It's about a palette of options that you can creatively recombine. I don't know if I can encapsulate it simpler than that. Questions that evidence of how much you care and invest in what it is you're doing, photographically and otherwise. So let's begin at the beginning and this distinction between the literal and the poetic. There are the tools, but then there's also the attitude to working with the tools and their outcomes. And it's that attitude, that approach, that adds the poetics into what otherwise is just a set of tools, just a set of possibilities. Now, I put this up front in boldface against a dramatic black background to make sure we are in no way uncertain or not clear about the mandate in front of us. Remember, tools are not the end game when it comes to intent and purpose. They are simply a means of getting where you need to be. So it's about a palette of options you then creatively recombine. For example, in the Adobe Photoshop Masterclass, we have our set of scripts of actions. Here's a screen snapshot blown up. Each of these is a particular technique, a particular undertaking. It's a palette of options. We provide them not just because these are moves that we make on a regular basis on our own images or images of friends that we work on their behalf. It's a set of possibilities, and it's how we use them and creatively recombine them that makes all the difference. But at the moment, only one has a stop to alert you to consider or adjust something. Yet each of these actions has many stages, which you could also toggle on dialog boxes and make your own innovated adjustments, tweaks to perfect them. But you can also just play them and have things happen to your images, as I'll show you in some excerpts from our workshop, case studies, and be satisfied rather than having to interrogate and turn them into your own performance rather than accepting our particular take on this or that. So there are tools, but then there is the attitude to working with them. We also have in the workshop extensive resources, not just the case studies, not just all the other videos, not just the workshop sessions, not just all of the notes and the actions. For example, our reverse luminosity masking Hurrell skin tones, George Hurrell, the great glamour photographer of the golden years of Hollywood. But this is not about purpose and intent. This is a page out of a workshop manual, in this case, emulating George Hurrell's incredible skin tones. What we're looking at today is the antithesis of this. Instead, it is what we can use such techniques to enable us to arrive where we need to be. So if I go to the workshop's Read Me First introductory file, which lists all of the resources, and I've highlighted a couple of areas where we are talking about poetics, not the literal, not the mechanical, not the tool sets, but the application of those tool sets on behalf of the poetics, what else it is we're wanting to accrue, associate, embed within our undertakings. All of the case studies are effectively about the poetics, about the application of the tool sets, the actions, specifically for imagined and emotional outcomes. Theatrical staging and a spectacular spectacle, depth enhancement, presence, anthropomorphism, refining morphology, and so on. And I've taken small sections out of these two particular case studies as examples of, to point you in answering those questions, where the poetic revelations and the poetic editing is, even though there's no individual case study titled Poetic Revelations or Poetic Editing. In fact, it's in all of them. And I've highlighted some of the other sections where we are specifically addressing those questions, especially these case studies, and having intent and purpose behind the tool sets that we get to work with. And as I say, in the end, it's all about putting in place a workflow that works simply, accurately, and consistently, so we then only have ourselves to worry about. So now let's have a look at those video excerpts, which I will comment on. Let's begin with the spectacular spectacle. Don't forget how this works. These notes from my Understanding Pictures workshop about the two compositions, spatial and temporal, where, by definition, things that cannot exist in a flat, still, silent, two-dimensional picture. Nevertheless, the illusion of time, narrative, time passing, and space, my everyday common sense habitation of time and space, we create these illusions. And we use our drawing, tonal, and color compositions in cohort to bring about these illusions of time and space. So here we go. What have I done here? I'm desaturating these yellows so that even though they're yellow and warm, they are moving away. I don't want to change the warmth. I could change the warmth and they would move away and give a much greater sense of passing of time and space as I curtsy into the future, into the distance. But no, I'm choosing to keep the yellows there because of the harmony and synergy along this most important diagonal means of organizing and structuring relationships within my instance. So I'm choosing, of all of those possibilities, I'm choosing to decrease the saturation, the colorfulness, in order to push them back. But I don't want to push my other rocks back or the foreground back so much, so my layer mask then attenuates that response. Let's have a look. Off and on. Can you feel yourself just meandering and sorting out through this diagonal, back in time, off and on? But as I do this, Pinnacle Rock, which I haven't touched, appears even more prominent and begins to advance. Because as this is pushed back, this then assumes the position that it's got to be closer towards me. It's both intimate and astute at the same time. Now let's turn it all off, Gary, and have a look before and after. Before and after. This is where a lot of people would stop. This is the spectacular spectacle. A lot of people go, every square centimeter of this picture is asking for my attention. Look at these transitions. Oh my goodness gracious me. Oh my goodness gracious me. But I think I've got one more trick up my sleeve. I've grouped all of my edits into a single group. I've just selected those layers and Command G, put them into a group so that I can add a single layer mask to that group that then attenuates all of those adjustments in a single go. And of course, you can see the mask here where I'm not affecting the sky or most of the landscape. It's really just along the horizon line and a few little ditties, but it really is the base of this extraordinary rock formation out to sea. Let's have a look. Turn it off and turn it on. I'm just attenuating the effect I've created overall. And if I had the time, I would have gone in and done it on all sorts of smaller areas to increase the dynamic rhythm, syncopation, if you like, between different areas. You'll see this with a couple of Stephanie's images a little bit later on in this video. I'm just attenuating certain areas, and this was the most obvious because it's not the foreground, it's in the midground, it's not in the background. And look at how that simple move, off and on, allows it, according to this logic, to recede that little bit more. Now, the rock as a shape, its drawing composition, it's so huge. It's not going to lose any of its drawing prowess in terms of the color and tones, pushing it back a little, but it now begins, at least for me, off and on. It starts to sit in a more ethereal space. Notice the light is a little softer on it. Can you see that? Compared to what is going on elsewhere. So straight away, it's like I've got lighting and differential lighting and different lighting yet again. And that is that theatrical stage I've talked about so much in the masterclass, but also this case study. And therefore I have different actors, different flavors, different conflicts, different experiences, different thoughts and feelings and associations. And the spectacular spectacle suddenly becomes even more interesting, at least to me. So it's the attitude we bring to the task. It's how we apply those tools. And even though this is a Adobe Photoshop masterclass, note that the framework we are proposing is what the tools, the applications sit within. So these thoughts, these ideas can be applied to almost any application or tool set. It begs another question as to, do I actually have the tools needed to simply, efficiently, quickly execute these thoughts, feelings, ideas, and concerns? But I think it's also interesting to note, if you think of Lightroom, they were forced to add local adjustments, but you define an area and then go about adjusting it. In Photoshop, you put an adjustment layer on by default, then you mask it locally. Conceptually, completely different. Now, I can excuse Lightroom being designed that way initially because of the problems of editing in an RGB color model in Photoshop. Lightroom is still having to edit RGB, but they define the area and then apply all of our tools to that one area. So when saturation goes through the roof as I'm decreasing contrast, I can then moderate it. But conceptually, it's the photographic paradox. What do we put first and what do we do last? And Photoshop, in its default, you add an adjustment, you work out what it needs to be, and then you locally apply it. Is a completely different conceptual framework to the capture ones, the Lightrooms, and so on. And therein, I think this also is a fertile training ground for undertaking such research, for exploring such possibilities. Okay, let's look at another excerpt from our presence case study. Can you see all of that drawing that I was previously talking about? How much more enhanced all of this is becoming. And in a large exhibition print, even from a distance, this is a space that I'm beginning to enter. By entering it physically, by these simple moves, changes in color balance between different areas of the image, opening and revealing, my mind also because I can't physically walk into it. My goodness gracious me, of course I can't. But it's metaphorically that I begin, as a metaphor, begin to inhabit this space. And I love to say this, as I wander, W-A-N-D-E-R, around this magnificent place, I begin to wonder. This is how even a disinterested person gets held in front of the picture long enough that they risk becoming interested in it. Let's see where we are at the moment, before and after, before and after. You can see the background is as it was, and this valley is just opening up and beginning to embrace me metaphorically through its symbology, its symbolism. It enables me to dream through habitation. It just helps to corral and keep me in the foreground, wandering around, and the more I wander, the more I can wonder. You guessed it, never leave home without it. Bit of enhanced presence in the foreground, drawing and tonal composition enhancement, before and after. Let's zoom in, before and after. Yep, just everything that's there just gets better and better. But look, I now have applied a second Vavavoom 3D Plus variation, where the logic, the layer mask, is now of my making rather than just the simple division between foreground and middle ground and background. Now I'm beginning to draw in enhanced presence, a bit like Stephanie's incredible escarpment with the forest followed by the spirit figures above and the crowning glory of the world above. I'm now animating these objects in the foreground, off and on. Let's zoom in, off and on. And so that when I turn everything off and everything on, you can see the dance taking place here according to my prescribed logic, my reanimation, the energizing, turning these things into characters on a stage of my making, worthy of my time and exploration. I'm just pushing it back. I now have this real engagement between the here, the now, and the after, the present and the future. And so I set up this conversation between the images within my image, both real and imagined, making them even more poetic, perhaps longing for a time past or something like that, while being dazzled by this torturous engagement with this thickery in the present. And even though it's fraught with all sorts of areas I could stumble or trip or get hung up on, this distant, hazy sort of highly poetic, mystical, perhaps even nirvana awaits, as long as I can now break out of this thicket and make it over there. But of course, when this thing gets printed as we see it now, on a beautiful, rich paper, on a magnificent gallery wall and knit creatively and accordingly, this is going to be a space from anywhere within the gallery, from close, intimate contact to far away rendezvous. This will capture my very being and dare me to walk past it without a level, at least initially, of engagement. At least without some level of engagement. The reanimation. Not just so you feel the breeze on your face or smell the brine in the sea or the wind through the she oaks, whispering secrets long lost or previously held. That's the name of the game. So the first decision is to stop letting your applications define what we do. It's obvious. The first thing is to separate the tool from the craft. The tool from the craft of considering an image to be composed of many parts. And the rendering of, the realizing of, the enhancement, refining, and the negotiating of all of those different parts, both real and literal, skies, trees, and also imagined thoughts and presence. The renegotiation of how they all come together to conspire and construe and affect how we, in fact, engage with them. They're my suggestions, for better or for worse. And it's the embeddedness of what we're doing above what it is that we find ourselves pointing lenses at that answers, from our point of view, all of these questions, this zeitgeist, this moment where so many people, especially photographers from all sorts of genres, working with and without Photoshop in their lives, come to us questioning their purpose and their intent and how to go beyond where they already are. What is the nature of the mechanism they can enact and provide themselves in the hope of moving into this territory that then engages others with their work no less powerfully than their work engages themselves. And how we go about giving ourselves permission to address those lingering but usually unanswered questions in the back of what we do. Wish you all the best with your adventures, especially with dear old Photoshop. Looking forward to the next encounter. Take care. See ya.